Hello and welcome back to Iraqi Dinar Hub. Today, we're re-examining one of the most talked about claims circulating online in the currency community. The idea that a single 25,000 Iraqi dinar note could be worth $80,500 at an exchange rate of $3.22 per dinar. You heard that right. This is what's often called the 3.22 rate scenario, where 1 dinar equals $3.22, turning a modest note into a major windfall. If that sounds ambitious or even unbelievable, that's precisely why this discussion matters. Over the next 18 paragraphs, we'll break down the math, the assumptions, the realism, and the broader context behind this claim. By the end, you'll understand how that $80,500 figure is calculated and how to interpret such projections in today's 2025 economic environment. Let's start by clarifying the basic claim. A 25,000 dinar note multiplied by $3.22 equals approximately $80,500. The math itself is simple, but the rate assumption is not. Current exchange rates for the Iraqi dinar remain far lower, typically a fraction of a US cent per dinar. That means the $3.22 rate falls firmly within speculative territory, driven by rumor, optimism, and online discussions rather than by official policy or market indicators. Nevertheless, such numbers attract attention, fueling social media trends and online debates. Our goal today is to unpack every layer of this speculation, to separate realistic possibilities from financial fiction. A rate of $3.22 per dinar would represent a dramatic and unprecedented revaluation of Iraq's currency against the US dollar. This would not be a minor adjustment. It would be an economic transformation. For such a shift to occur, Iraq would need major systemic reforms, including stable inflation, strong fiscal discipline, healthy foreign reserves, a balanced budget, and restored investor confidence. Oil revenues would need to be steady, corruption curbed, and geopolitical risks significantly reduced. Without these changes, such a revaluation remains theoretical at best. It's the kind of shift that happens only when an entire national economy is rebuilt and restructured from the ground up. Even if a $3.22 target were somehow introduced, real-world exchange transactions never happen at perfect theoretical rates. Banks, money changers, and forex institutions apply spreads, liquidity buffers, and service fees that reduce the payout you actually receive. So even if the headline rate stood at $3.22, your final amount could be several percentage points lower once transaction costs are applied. For instance, a 1% fee on $80,500 would already reduce your total by more than $800 if the spread widened to 3% or 5%. The loss could reach several $1,000s before you even complete the exchange. This is why knowing the net rate, not just the advertised rate, is crucial. Let's explore that through an example. Beyond transaction fees, liquidity plays a major role. The key question is whether an exchange institution is willing or even able to purchase a large volume of Iraqi dinar at such a high speculative rate. If many holders attempt to cash in simultaneously, market forces would immediately push the rate lower. Exchange houses might impose limits, offer lower prices for larger volumes, or refuse transactions altogether. So even if the theoretical calculation produces $80,500 on paper, the actual execution could be very different once market supply, demand, and institutional risk tolerance are factored in. Another essential point is timing. Currency rates are fluid, reacting daily to oil prices, political developments, central bank decisions, and investor sentiments. A speculative rate like $3.22 might appear briefly in rumor cycles or hypothetical discussions, but actual exchange conditions can change within hours. A delay in converting your currency could dramatically alter outcomes. If the rate were to drop to $2.50, your potential return would shrink to $62,500. At $2, it would fall to $50,000, and at $1 per dinar, only $25,000. Small shifts in rates have massive impacts, which is why credible investors always treat such claims cautiously. Some supporters of the high-value argument reference Iraq's pre-war exchange rate, suggesting the dinar once held parity or superiority against the dollar and could return to that value. However, currency valuation is dynamic, shaped by modern global trade systems. Debt levels, inflation, and fiscal policy, not nostalgia. Even if Iraq achieves greater stability, the conditions that supported older valuations no longer exist. The global economy, oil markets, and Iraq's economic structure have fundamentally changed since those earlier eras. Reverting to past rates is not as simple as reissuing a decree or adjusting numbers on paper. The psychology of speculation also plays a powerful role here. Headlines promising massive returns on small notes appeal to the imagination. A figure like $80,500 for a single note creates excitement and hope, spreading quickly across online forums and communities. But excitement doesn't equate to evidence. Responsible investors must always ask, what data supports this? Who benefits from promoting it? Viral claims often lack credible backing and can lure individuals into unrealistic expectations. The prudent approach is to verify before believing, especially when the claims seem too good to be true. From a practical perspective, if you're considering converting dinar, it's essential to compare multiple exchange options: banks, licensed dealers, or registered forex agents. Request documentation of exact buy and sell rates. Ask about maximum limits and confirm all associated costs. Additionally, familiarize yourself with your country's financial regulations. Some jurisdictions impose strict caps or reporting obligations on large foreign currency conversions. Engaging in high-value speculative exchanges without proper compliance can expose you to regulatory risks or financial scrutiny. On the macroeconomic side, a move toward a multi-dollar dinar rate would require Iraq to achieve sustained and diversified growth. That includes strengthening oil output while also expanding non-oil sectors such as manufacturing, agriculture, and services. It would require structural reforms in banking, taxation, and governance. Inflation would have to remain low, and confidence from international investors would need to be restored. Such transformations take years, not weeks, and they depend on both domestic reforms and global conditions. Without them, a rate like $3.22 is purely aspirational. A sharp revaluation would also reshape Iraq's trade balance. A stronger dinar would make imported goods cheaper, helping domestic consumers and possibly curbing inflation. But exports would become more expensive abroad, potentially reducing competitiveness for non-oil products. Industries dependent on export revenues could suffer, leading to job losses and trade imbalances. For this reason, central banks usually pursue gradual currency adjustments rather than sudden jumps. Balancing growth and stability. Let's revisit the arithmetic itself. The $80,500 calculation is straightforward multiplication, minus 25,000 times $3.22. But numbers alone, tell the full story. They ignore liquidity, regulation, risk, and market behavior. Mathematics provides theoretical outcomes, not practical ones. In reality, traded currencies often carry wide bid-ask spreads, meaning the rate you buy at and the rate you sell at can differ sharply. That difference, multiplied over large volumes, can substantially cut returns. Understanding this spread is key to interpreting any large projected payout. Market credibility is another crucial test. If a rate as high as $3.22 were genuinely credible, it would appear in international currency futures and forward markets, where traders hedge or speculate based on expected values. Yet, no such pricing has been observed. Global markets self-correct. Extreme outliers are quickly challenged by competing participants. If only a handful of sources or forums promote a rate that no institution recognizes, skepticism is warranted. In currency valuation, broad confirmation matters more than isolated predictions. Now, imagine the unlikely case that such a conversion did occur and you walked away with $80,500 in proceeds. Beyond the windfall itself, you'd face new responsibilities. Large transactions often trigger anti-money laundering, AML checks, source of funds verification, and tax reporting. Banks and financial authorities are required by law to investigate significant cross-border or high-value currency exchanges. Proper documentation would be essential. Even legitimate gains could draw attention if not reported correctly. Always plan for both the financial and legal dimensions of any major transaction. To summarize, the $80,500 claim, based on converting a 25,000 dinar note at $3.22 per dinar, is mathematically sound, but economically speculative. It assumes a perfect convergence of optimistic conditions, from massive revaluation and fee-free exchanges to full market liquidity and regulatory acceptance. In reality, any one of those assumptions breaking down would significantly alter the outcome, rather than treating $80,500 as a promise. It should be viewed as a hypothetical exercise illustrating how exchange rate changes influence currency value.